Welcome back to the Prokofiev Sixth Sonata. I must say this day has not proceeded the way I would have liked to in terms of productivity, so I have a very limited amount of time in which to get back into the Prokofiev Sixth Sonata, and I must say I'm dying to go on. I stopped previously at the più mosso del tempo primo, and that's where I want to go. But I know from my past, I even know from what I tell my students, that if I don't reinforce what I did yesterday, it will degrade even further than the 24 hours or so that have already elapsed since I last approached this piece. Maybe more than 24 hours, in fact. So it's really important that I, at the very least, have maintained some sense of connection. So maybe just a little cursory review. I have fingerings that I worked out yesterday. I have thoughts that may or may not come back and strategies. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with a little review, and if there's any time left, go on. So here we go. Okay, now I should have known that, because the recurrence is very simple, very straightforward. First line was very simple because of the recurrent motive. The first big event is from the first line to the second line. So it just requires me to look or to think about it. Down to the C flat chord in the left hand. All right. Sharp in the right hand, top voice, holds for a quarter note. So I don't want to just tell myself it's a quarter. I want to feel that it's a quarter. Excuse me. I remember much of what goes on there. Also, I can probably muster up a recollection of what these notes are. Yes, from a left-hand perspective, that jumps around. That always was more challenging than the right hand. Fewer notes. Here, where the hesitations are. This is good. So, now when I start from there, interestingly enough, I've got to learn from that. When I start from there, it seems simpler. That's just one less degree of complexity. Back down here, and then think, start from there, so I've shortened my whole concentration span, or the need for it, let me put it this way. Excuse me. If I'm going to use this crossover fingering, yeah, I've got to know that my left hand is already on its A, and I can concentrate fully on the A in the right hand. When I'm reminding myself, I feel the fourth, the fifth intervals. Fourth, the fourth, the fifth, that's it. The fourth, the fifth, the diminished. The fourth, the fifth, the fourth, the fifth, diminished. Yes. Minutely different from. So I'm going to draw my ear and my listener's ear to that new voice. My attention in learning it there. I was experimenting with sosnudo. Need to be able to see what I'm reading. Okay, it's obvious that there's too much complexity in the way I'm thinking, so. Major, are all major chords. The feel, this major second, whole tone, half tone. Whole tone, half step. So. By itself, that's fine. Remember that descending chromatic? It's a repeat of what I had before, that's good. And then almost. Third time. Sorry. Let's see if that's identical to the first one. It seems. Okay, then I go to a different section. So that's the whole A section. There are 3 recurrences of, with only one slight variation, and I get to E flat chord, natural. One of them has that little triplet figure. So this section, to go back to the bottom of to measure 12, all that. Pretty simple melody. Just leave out the pedal for now and pretend this is a long half note. And the principle that I'm operating under is what I call the principle of layered complexity, that if there's too many layers, they add a degree of complexity beyond what you're able to accommodate easily. So you strip off one layer at a time until you find that place where you feel you can reasonably and calmly accommodate all of the things that are coming at you. It's the same principle behind doing hands separately, but hands together and hands separately often still does not penetrate deep within where the complexity still lies, because there could be a complexity in one hand or a complexity of rhythm at the same time as a complexity of leaping or of strange chords or things of that sort. So you have to identify whether you feel at all distracted. In other words, whether your concentration goes to the significant element. So in this case, I did not remind myself where the left hand goes. Okay, so it's E flat, G flat. There's two white notes. So this is a half step to full step. This is full step to half step. So variety of distinctions. The feel of it, the sense of the E flat third finger, the two white notes. Okay, so I've got to remember that's melodically where it goes down to G. So. Side by side, 2/3 side by side, all white note thirds. So there we go. So it's also important because it's a page turn, and I have to get used to doing that without suddenly needing to know what's on the next page. Okay, let me add, if I may. That's coming. Okay, good to know. It repeats without the G. It repeats in the same place. So. That's not bad. Sostenuto, chromatic. I'm getting used to this sensation. White notes, yes. And then a tilted 2/4 chord. Tilted, there it is. Okay, I've written a 5/3 here to get myself ready for the lower octave. I don't know why I'm still a little uncomfortable with this particular figure. The 5/3 is the best of those three intervals, so it's just one of the things I want to note. When I turn my hand slightly to favor the third, it feels it's arrived at home. Each of these other two is slightly less than optimal. The 1/3 on white notes would prefer to have a black note third. The 2/4 white black would prefer to have two blacks or two whites. So what I'm going to do is make my body remember that the last one is the best one. So let's see. Yes, that was it. I made myself nervous about what was next. So 1/3, and then 3/4. Let me do that one again. 3/4, 3/4, 3/5. Because there's nothing to grab. There's no profile that includes black notes to help me know where I am. They're good. There's 4 main. that's the A section. Okay, and that's not perfect, but the reinforcement really makes a difference. It'll pay off mostly tomorrow when I won't feel I'm starting fresh or I've forgotten entirely what I was doing before. Now, notationally, this E looks all crammed in, almost innocuous, but it's really melodically significant and physically significant because it's different from all the alternating. So I have to make note of it. Yes, and once again. I have to know that. That's this 3 times from A. Second time, the third time. The third one. I mentioned the technique of this, that is alternating falling slurs. It's not physically that difficult. I'm having trouble remembering the notes. Okay, that helps. To have an outline of that happens to be a minor 7th chord, but be natural. And then this little unexpected reversal where instead of going from octave to chord, octave to small chord, it goes from a single note to chord. And there's 3 notes on the chord instead of 2. So meanwhile, the left hand actually feels a little more consistent. Easy to find the E flat. It's right next to the E natural because it's describing that thumb melody. So. Let's try it again. It's a smaller interval. Sometimes get really short. I'm looking for simplicity in this line. There's actually several lines, so just the feel under the hand doesn't necessarily guide me mentally or orally. Because, okay, so this alternating. Chromatic, that's simple enough. Then the whole step. Turns back. That's a little unexpected. Okay. Well, I've got to get used to that. Yeah, in other words, I have to form, first of all, an aural model. what it is. What I'm aiming for, in other words, and then physically how to do it. It's not physically difficult, but it's just unfamiliar enough or unexpected enough or unpredictable enough that until I forge for myself a model that I can identify with, then everything feels arbitrary. So, obvious two-note pairs, two chord pairs. This to this, this to this, extra. This to this. So I want to feel. And the repetition, okay, the one on G to the one on D, then this, then the one on G and the one on D, okay, that repetition. Why do they feel so familiar? They have a shapeliness, an identity that gives them a familiar quality, even though they don't share the same keys or notes. Sold on why that works. I do feel the figurations. The groupings are meaningful to me. This rhythmic shift, the right hand stops contributing briefly, gives it a nice change to go along with the diminuendo, and that sets up the second theme. Whether I'll be damper pedaling or sostenuto pedaling there. If I oh, that's right. I chose to do this with the left hand to help me let go and be prepared. It seems that I was thinking sostenuto pedal. I can even start with an octave. Remember that thought. I may not do that. I just want one note. it's that unless I do what yesterday I must have found to be intuitive, 5-4-2-1, good spacing in the first part, then I won't do this. What I'm more likely to do is 5-4-3-2-1, which is not terrible either. Quite frankly, it may be just as good or better. But this is such a delicious beginning. This 5-4-2-1 is so beautifully spaced for the hand that I kind of have a special appreciation for it. I remember. Yeah, it's a fingering issue here. 2, 4, 1, 2, and then I see. Group of 3. Group 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 1, 2. Oh. 1, 2, 4, 1, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5. It's easy to remember 1, 2, 4 3 times with 3 dramatically different sensations. This augmented chord with a tilt towards the 4th, not that pleasant. 1, 2, 4, white note thumb to 2, 4 black notes, delicious. F sharp major chord, reasonable. And then a chromatic with a skip finger, 1, 3, 4, 5. Kind of nice. There is the first. That does help. My right hand fingering when it stops paralleling my left hand melody. That's right. That's it. Now actually, just a commitment to finishing on 5. Strange as it may seem. Signaling that my right hand has run out of fingers is the best thing that it could get, because that forces it to want to go to other positions. Yes. Now I'm trying faster than tempo because I want to be at that mindless stage where my body says, good solution. I've shifted my hand grouping, hand division, because it's nice. Because this particular group of fingers, of keys, fits better under the left hand than the right hand. This time the right hand continues, right? And the left hand has to find that fancy two-group fingering. At least in my estimation, that's what the left hand needs to do. And it serves me well. But I didn't do it. Prokofiev did the same thing. He writes a rest. I'll point out that I've been recently doing some Schumann, like the piano part of the Schumann quintet, and Schumann doesn't always indicate physically what you are to do. He leaves it. Of course, Prokofiev with his held notes, where I've struggled between whether or not to use sostenuto and damper pedal, those are similar. Those are decisions that I have to make. But in this case, he's gone out of his way to show you precisely how to get off one hand and onto another. So that's a good thing. Fingering is serving me well, really. That's nice. And I've indicated that I have to change the relationship, the geographical relationship of the hands. So, right hand over, left hand over. Again, one of those places where there's a repeated note that just incidentally Prokofiev didn't indicate. So my compliment goes only so far. So this is a tied note. The E flat right hand thumb note becomes a left hand E flat thumb note. Let me just double check these chords. They're all little triads. This is a diminished one, minor, diminished, minor. And lo and behold, I had written that down. Shouldn't have needed to rediscover it, but I'm only human, so. Out at 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 4 3 2 3 2 1 3 2 1 4 1 4 3 2. That's nice. And then 1 3 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 1. Of course, I've got to tell myself 1. I like the fingering. Fingering simplifies my thinking. I need the fourth and the last one. And now I'm at the più mosso del tempo primo. So that was actually satisfying. I'm glad I did it. Didn't perfect anything. Well, there were a few things that started to find a groove, but really the most important thing by far in terms of effective learning and time management is the fact that I re-exposed myself to some learning I did yesterday that needed that re-exposure. I think with time tomorrow, I will do some forging on and some going back and refining some things to see if they stick. Whether or not I consciously go to the point of saying this stuff could be memorized, in other words, I could benefit from having it fully stored here, I don't know. I have struggled with that certainly all my learning career, with when and how I memorize things. And I think I don't want to push it. I think, in other words, there are certain things that just because they're easier to execute that way, that require my visual attention, I will let those guide me, rather than impose a sort of a strict lesson plan that says, I must have this memorized. I will try to be incorporating that idea that it's so well learned fairly quickly that it starts to get internalized, that I start to be able to have a lesser need for the source to tell me what the notes are and the rhythms and things like that, and a greater need to have the score just as a source of inspiration and to enlighten me as to things that I might not have noticed or might not notice when they're just stored in here. So I think that's what the score is best for, is to keep coming back to the source and finding things that really tickle your fancy or delight you or move you or whatever, or satisfy your intellectual need for balance or some kind of a musical narrative. But regardless, this is a process of exploration for me, this whole project is, and I'm going to see what tomorrow brings. See ya.